Further covering chapter 2, we will discuss now structure and functions of nervous system and endocrine system and their relationship with behavior and experience. Since our biological structures play an important role in organization and execution of behavior, so we shall look at these structures and we will discuss them in detail. So we will discuss about the nervous system first in this. Human nervous system is the most complex and most developed of all living creatures. Though the nervous system functions as a whole, for the ease of study, we can divide it into many parts depending on its location or functions. Based on location, the nervous system can be divided into two parts: central nervous system CNS and peripheral nervous system PNS. The part of the nervous system found inside the heart, bony cases, cranium, and backbone is classified as central nervous system. Brain and spinal cord are the organs of the system. The parts of the nervous system other than central nervous system are placed in the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system can be further classified into somatic and autonomic nervous system. Somatic nervous system is concerned with voluntary actions, while the autonomic nervous system performs functions on which we have no voluntary control. The organization of the nervous system is like this only. So the peripheral nervous system. Discussing about peripheral nervous system, it is composed of all the neurons and nerve fibers that connect the central nervous system to the rest of the body. The peripheral nervous system is divided into somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is further divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. The peripheral nervous system provides information to the central nervous system from sensory receptors, eyes, ears, skin, etc., and relays back motor commands from the brain to the muscles and glands. Coming to the somatic nervous system, this system consists of two types of nerves called cranial nerves and spinal nerves. There are 12 sets of cranial nerves which either emanate from or reach different locations of the brain. There are three types of cranial nerves: sensory, motor, and mixed. Sensory nerves collect sensory information from receptors of the head region, vision, audition, smell, taste, touch, etc., and carry them to the brain. The motor nerves carry motor impulses originating from the brain to muscles of the head region. For example, movements of the eyeballs are controlled by motor cranial nerves. Mixed nerves have both sensory and motor fibers which conduct sensory and motor information to and from the brain. There are 31 sets of spinal nerves coming out of or reaching to the spinal cord. Each set has sensory and motor nerves. Spinal nerves have two functions. The sensory fibers of the spinal nerves collect sensory information from all over the body except the head region and send them to the spinal cord, from where they are then carried out to the brain. In addition, motor impulses coming down from the brain are sent to the muscles by the motor fibers of the spinal nerves. The autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system governs activities which are normally not under direct control of individuals. It controls such internal functions as breathing, blood circulation, saliva, stomach contraction, and emotional reactions. So, these activities of the autonomic system are under the control of different structures of the brain. The autonomic nervous system has two divisions: sympathetic division and parasympathetic division. Although the effect of one division is opposite to the effect of the other, both work together to maintain a state of equilibrium. The sympathetic division deals with emergencies when the action must be quick and powerful, such as in situations of fight or flight. During this period, the digestion stops, blood flows from internal organs to the muscles, and breathing rate, oxygen supply, heart rate, and blood sugar level increases. The parasympathetic division is mainly concerned with conservation of energy. It monitors the routine functions of the internal system of the body. When the emergency is over, the parasympathetic division takes over. It decelerates the sympathetic activation and calms down the individual to a normal condition. As a result, all body functions like heartbeat, breathing, and blood flow return to their normal levels. The central nervous system. The central nervous system, CNS, is the center of all neural activity. It integrates all incoming sensory information, performs all kinds of cognitive activities, and issues motor commands to muscles and glands. The central nervous system comprises of the A brain and B spinal cord. So, the brain and behavior. It is believed that the human brain has evolved over millions of years from the brains of lower animals, and this evolutionary process still continues. We can examine the levels of structures in the brain from its earliest to the most recent form in the process of evolution. The limbic system, brainstem, and cerebellum are the oldest structures, while cerebral cortex is the latest development in the course of evolution. An adult brain weighs about 1.36 kg and contains around 100 billion neurons. However, the most amazing thing about the brain is not its number of neurons but its ability to guide human behavior and thought. The brain is organized into structures and regions that perform specific functions. Brain scanning reveals that while some mental functions are distributed among different areas of the brain, many activities are localized also. For example, the occipital lobe of the brain is a specialized area for vision. So now we will discuss about structure of the brain. For the convenience of study, the brain can be divided into three parts. First hindbrain, second midbrain, and third forebrain. So, we will discuss first about hindbrain. This part of the brain consists of the following structures. First, medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata is the lowest part of the brain that exists in continuation of the spinal cord. It contains neural centers which regulate basic life supporting activities like breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure. This is why medulla is known as the vital center of the brain. It has some centers of autonomic activities also. Pons. Now discussing about pons. It is connected with medulla on one side and with the midbrain on the other side. A nucleus neural center of pons receives auditory signals relayed by our eyes, relayed by our ears. It is believed that pons is involved in sleep mechanism, particularly the sleep characterized by dreaming. It contains nuclei affecting respiratory movement and facial expressions also. Now cerebellum. This highly developed part of the hindbrain can be easily recognized by its wrinkled surface. It maintains and controls posture and equilibrium of the body. Its main function is coordination of muscular movements. Though the motor commands originate in the forebrain, the cerebellum receives and coordinates them to relay to the muscles. It also stores the memory of movement patterns so that we do not have to concentrate on how to walk, dance, or ride a bicycle. Now, midbrain. The midbrain is relatively small in size, and it connects the hindbrain with the forebrain. A few neural centers related to some special reflexes and visual and auditory sensations are found here. An important part of midbrain, known as reticular activating system, is responsible for our arousal. It makes us alert and active by regulating sensory inputs. It also helps us in selecting information from the environment. Forebrain. So, the forebrain is considered to be the most important part of the brain because it performs all cognitive, emotional, and motor activities. We will discuss four major parts of the forebrain: hypothalamus, thalamus, limbic system, and cerebrum. Another is hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is one of the smallest structures in the brain but plays a vital role in our behavior. It regulates physiological processes involved in emotional and motivational behaviors such as eating, drinking, sleeping, temperature regulation, and sexual arousal. It also regulates and controls the internal environment of the body, for example, heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, and regulates the secretion of hormones from various endocrine glands. Next, we will discuss of thalamus. So, it consists of an egg-shaped cluster of neurons situated on the ventral, that is the upper side of the hypothalamus. It is it is like a relay station that receives all incoming sensory signals from sense organs and sends them to appropriate parts of the cortex for processing. It also receives all outgoing motor signals coming from the cortex and sends them to appropriate parts of the body. The limbic system. So, this system is composed of a group of structures that form part of the old mammalian brain. It helps in maintaining internal homeostasis by regulating body temperature, blood pressure, and blood sugar level. It has close links with the hypothalamus. Besides hypothalamus, the limbic system comprises the hippocampus and amygdala. The hippocampus plays an important role in long term memory. The amygdala plays an important role in emotional behavior. The cerebrum. So, the cerebrum is also known as cerebral cortex. This part regulates all higher levels of cognitive functions such as attention, perception, learning, memory, language, behavior, reasoning, and problem solving. The cerebrum makes two. The cerebrum makes two-thirds of the total mass of the human brain. Its thickness varies from 1.5 mm to 4 mm, which covers the entire surface of the brain and contains neurons, neural nets, and bundles of axons. All these make it possible for us to perform organized actions and create images, symbols, associations, and memories. The cerebrum is divided into two symmetrical halves called the cerebral hemispheres. Although the two hemispheres appear identical, functionally one hemisphere usually dominates the other. For example, the left hemisphere usually controls language behavior. The right hemisphere is usually specialized to deal with images, spatial relationships, and pattern recognition. These two hemispheres are connected by a wide bundle of myelinated fibers called corpus callosum that carries messages back and forth between the hemispheres. Cerebral cortex has also been divided into four lobes, that is the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobe. The frontal lobe is mainly concerned with cognitive functions such as attention, thinking, memory, learning, and reasoning, but it also exerts inhibitory effect on autonomic and emotional responses. The parietal lobe is mainly concerned with cutaneous sensations and the coordination with visual and auditory sensations. The temporal lobe is primarily concerned with the processing of auditory information. Memory for symbolic sounds and words resides here. Understanding of speech and written language depends on this lobe. The occipital lobe is mainly concerned with visual information. It is believed that interpretation of visual impulses, memory for visual stimuli, and color visual orientation is performed by this lobe. Physiologists and psychologists have tried to identify specific functions associated with specific brain structures. They have found that no activity of the brain is performed only by a single part of the cortex. Normally, other parts are involved, but it is also correct that there is some localization of functions, that is, for a particular function, a particular part of the cortex plays a more important role than the other parts. For example, if you are driving a car, you see the road and other vehicles by the function of your occipital lobe. Hear the horns by the function of your temporal lobe. Do many motor activities controlled by parietal lobe and make decisions by the help of frontal lobe. The whole brain acts as a well coordinated unit in which different parts contribute their functions separately. Now we come to spinal cord. The spinal cord is a long rope like collection of nerve fibers which run along the full length inside the spine. Its one end is connected with the medulla of the brain and another is free at the tail end. Its structure all along its length is similar. The butterfly shaped mass of gray matter present in the center of the spinal cord contains association neurons and other cells. Surrounding the gray matter is the white matter of the spinal cord, which is composed of the ascending and descending neural tracts. These tracts, collections of nerve fibers, connect the brain with the rest of the body. The spinal cord plays the role of a huge cable which exchanges innumerable messages with the central nervous system. There are two main functions of the spinal cord. Firstly, it carries sensory impulses coming from the lower parts of the body to the brain and motor impulses originating from the brain to all over the body. Secondly, it performs some simple reflexes that do not involve the brain. Simple reflexes involve a sensory nerve, a motor nerve, and the association neurons of the gray matter of the spinal cord. The reflex action. A reflex is an involuntary action that occurs very quickly after its specific kind of stimulation. The reflex action takes place automatically without conscious decision of the brain. Reflex actions are inherited in our nervous system through evolutionary processes. For example, the eye blinking reflex. Whenever any object suddenly comes near our eyes, our eyelids blink. Reflexes serve to protect the organism from potential threats and preserve life. Though several reflex actions are performed by our nervous system, the familiar reflexes are the knee jerk, pupil constriction, pulling away from very hot or cold objects, breathing and stretching. Most reflex actions are carried out by the spinal cord and do not involve the brain. Now we will discuss about the endocrine system. So the endocrine glands play a crucial role in our development and behavior. They secrete specific chemical substances called hormones which control some of our behaviors. These glands are called ductless glands or endocrine glands because they do not have any duct, unlike other glands, to send their secretions to specific places. Hormones are circulated by the bloodstream. The endocrine glands form the endocrine system of the body. This system works in conjunction with different parts of the nervous system. The whole system is thus known as neuroendocrine system. Now, pituitary gland. So this gland is situated within the cranium just below the hypothalamus. The pituitary gland is divided into anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary is directly connected with hypothalamus, which regulates its hormonal secretions. The pituitary gland secretes the growth hormone and many other hormones, which direct and regulate the secretions of many other endocrine glands found in our body. This is why the pituitary gland is known as the master gland of our body. Some hormones are secreted at a steady rate throughout life, while others are secreted at an appropriate time in life. For example, the growth hormone is released steadily through childhood with some spurt during adolescence, but Gonadotropic hormones are secreted at the age of puberty, which stimulates the secretion of appropriate sex hormones among boys and girls. As a result, primary and secondary sexual urge changes take place. Now, the thyroid gland. This gland is located in the neck. It produces thyroxine that influences the body's metabolic rate. Optimum amount of thyroxine is secreted and regulated by an anterior pituitary hormone, the thyroid stimulating hormone TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. The steady secretion of this hormone maintains the production of energy consumption. The steady secretion of this hormone maintains the production of energy, consumption of oxygen, and elimination of waste in body cells. On the other hand, underproduction of thyroxine leads to physical and psychological lethargy. If thyroid gland is removed in young animals, their growth is stunted and they fail to develop sexually. Adrenal gland. So this gland is located above each kidney. It has two parts, adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla, each secreting different hormones. The secretion of adrenal cortex is controlled and regulated by adrenocorticotropic hormone ACTH secreted by anterior pituitary gland. When the secretion of adrenal cortex goes down, anterior pituitary gets the message and increases the secretion of ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone, which stimulates the adrenal cortex to secrete more hormones. The adrenal cortex secretes a group of hormones called corticoids, which are utilized by the body for a number of physiological purposes. For example, regulation of minerals in the body, particularly sodium, potassium, and chlorides. Any disturbance in its function seriously affects the functions of the nervous system. Adrenal medulla secretes two hormones, namely epinephrine and norepinephrine, also known as adrenaline and noradrenaline, respectively. Sympathetic activations such as increased heart rate, oxygen consumption, metabolic rate, muscle tone, etc., take place through the secretion of these two hormones. Epinephrine and norepinephrine stimulate the hypothalamus, which prolongs emotions in an individual even when the stressor has been removed. Now, coming to pancreas, the pancreas lying near the stomach has a primary role in digestion of food, but it also secretes a hormone known as insulin. Insulin helps the liver to break down glucose for use by the body or for storage as glycogen by the liver. When insulin is not secreted in proper amount, people develop a disease called diabetic mellitus or simply diabetes. Gonads refer to testes in males and ovaries in females. The Hormones secreted by these glands control and regulate sexual behaviors and reproductive functions of males and females. Secretion of hormones of these glands is initiated, maintained, and regulated by a hormone called gonadotrophic hormone (GTS) secreted by the anterior pituitary. The secretion of gonadotrophic hormone GTH starts at the age of puberty, that is 10 to 14 years in human beings, and it stimulates gonads to secrete hormones, which in turn stimulates development of primary and secondary sexual characteristics. The ovaries in females produce estrogens and progesterone. Estrogens guide the sexual development of the female body. Primary sexual characteristics related with reproduction, such as development of ovum or egg cell, appear on every 28 days or so in the ovary of a sexually mature female. Secondary sexual characteristics such as breast development, rounded body contours, widened pelvis, etc., also depend on this hormone. Progesterone has no role in sexual development. Its function is related with preparation of uterus for the possible reception of fertilized ovum. The hormonal system for reproductive behavior is much simpler in the male because there is no cyclic pattern. Testes in males produce sperm continuously and secrete male sex hormones called androgens. The major androgen is testosterone. Testosterone prompts secondary sexual changes such as physical changes, growth of facial and body hairs, deepening of voice, and increase in sexually oriented behaviors. Increased aggression and other behaviors are also linked with testosterone production. The normal functioning of all hormones is crucial to our behavioral well being. Without a balanced secretion of hormones, the body would be unable to maintain the state of internal equilibrium. Without the increased secretion of hormones during the times of stress, we would not be able to react effectively to potential dangers in our environment. Finally, without the secretion of hormones at specific times in our lives, we would not be able to grow, mature, and reproduce. This is all about structure and functions of nervous system and endocrine system and the relationship with behavior and experience. Thank you.